South Korea has just finished building a solar electricity generation plant believed to be the largest in Asia. It produces 2.2 megawatts of electric power per day and can supply up to 700 households. The solar power system was built by South Korea's LG CNS for the city of Dongyang, 170 kilometers southeast of Seoul. The solar power system harnesses energy from sunlight alone. The solar power system is composed of 10,600 modules with an area of 39,670 square meters. Built with private funds, it took only 11 months to construct. The Dongyang solar power system is the 6th largest power generation plant of its type in the world. In an attempt to reduce the use of fossil fuels and cut down the country's carbon emissions, the South Korean government is trying to promote development of various renewable energies and meet the targets specified in the Kyoto Protocol. The use of solar energy in South Korea is still less than 1% of total energy consumption. And a farming project in New York aims to help create rooftop greenhouses across one of the world's most populous cities. The science barge runs on sustainable energy and is a travelling hydroponic vegetable farm. The experimental greenhouse boat is the brainchild of NY Sunworks and its executive director, Ted Kaplow. The science barge is a research and demonstration project. The long-term objective is to promote sustainable urban farming. The barge will be moored at the Hudson River Park for 8 weeks and will provide tours and educational programs for school groups and other visitors. Vegetables are grown in a greenhouse on the barge using recycled water and no pesticides. The boat uses solar energy, wind and biofuels to operate. Organisers say they don't expect the initiative to take off at the individual consumer level, but rather with larger groups like schools, businesses or apartment tenants who get together to utilise the 5,000 hectares of unshaded rooftop space available in New York City to build their own vegetable greenhouses. Recently, New York's mayor announced plans to build a greener, more sustainable city by 2030. The plan includes tax breaks to businesses and individuals who wish to install alternative and sustainable energy technology in their buildings. Sustainable technology makes financial sense. In Australia, they're focusing on water conservation. The world's driest continent is experiencing its worst drought on record, and across the country, people are looking for ways to utilise the little water they have. An Australian study commissioned by conservation groups claims that simply installing a rainwater tank in your garden could be the most cost and energy-efficient way of saving water. Homeowner Pam Jacobs is having a tank installed. She says the extra water will be useful for watering her garden. The domestic tanks gather rainwater from the house guttering system. It's the most efficient and simple way to collect water. The environmental study by Marsden Jacob Associates echoes this, saying tanks are twice as energy efficient as dams and 5 times more cost-effective than desalination plants. Only around 5% of homes in Perth, Melbourne and Sydney currently have home water tanks installed. The Australian Conservation Council says by installing the tanks, Australians could postpone the need for water alternatives like desalination plants for around 10 years. At the moment, demand for water tanks in Australia is outstripping supply. On the border between France and Switzerland is CERN, the European Organisation for Nuclear Research. Recently, scientists and journalists gathered at the research headquarters to witness a crucial phase in the construction of the most powerful particle accelerator ever built. CERN exists to provide the world's scientific community with powerful tools for research into the building blocks of matter. The Large Hadron Collider, or LHC for short, is a research tool designed to provide high-energy beams of protons. The unit is being built in a 27-kilometre circular tunnel that lies between 50 and 150 metres underground. The researchers had gathered to watch a large dipole magnet being lowered into the tunnel. This completed the basic installation of the more than 1,700 magnets that make up the collider. The positioning of the final magnet within the narrow tunnel was difficult because there is so little space. At the time, things went smoothly, and the happy gathering of scientists celebrated as the installation appeared to be proceeding towards its scheduled completion at the end of this year. Because researchers want to work with very powerful magnetic fields, the LHC is designed to take advantage of superconductivity, a phenomenon where certain materials, when kept cold enough, will conduct electricity without resistance. The magnets will need to be cooled to just 2 degrees above absolute zero. The accelerator will be the largest superconducting installation in the world. However, during pressure testing, one of the magnet's inner triplets failed, and the switch-on date for the accelerator has been delayed by about 6 months. A review team examined the mechanical design of the inner triplet and has proposed a repair method that should solve the problem. Once the particle accelerator is running, a race will begin to find the mathematically predicted Higgs boson particle. Physicists have been trying to find the Higgs boson ever since it was first proposed in the early 1960s. And in London's Science Museum, an exhibition called The Big Bang is currently trying to explain the new collider being built at CERN. The Big Bang is the popular term for the explosion that started the universe, and particle physicists are keen to use the powerful new collider to approximate the conditions moments after the Big Bang. 50 countries have collaborated on the collider at Geneva. Because the LHC will accelerate 2 beams moving in opposite directions, it is really 2 accelerators in one. To keep the machine as compact and economical as possible, the magnets for both are built into a single 2-in-1 housing. There are touchscreen displays at the exhibition designed to reveal the inner workings of the collider, and a stack of 1,800 CDs is there to represent the amount of data collected during just 1 hour of the collider's operation. 6 experiments will study what happens when the LHC's beams collide. British physicist Stephen Hawking is one of the world leaders in the study of subatomic particles, but he has been hitting the headlines for very different reasons. The renowned scientist, who is confined to a wheelchair, was set for a ride on a NASA aircraft designed to allow trainee astronauts to experience weightlessness.
Many people have asked me why I am
Hawking acknowledged before the flight that experiencing weightlessness, even for a few seconds, would be sweet relief from the bondage of a daily life immobilized by motor neuron disease. Hawking and an entourage of caretakers and other thrill-seekers took off from the space shuttle's runway at the Kennedy Space Center. The acclaimed cosmologist has posited theories to help explain black holes and other celestial phenomena. He said after being wheelchair-bound for almost 4 decades, the chance to float free in zero-G was wonderful. The Vectrix Super Scooter is a rechargeable electric bike that performs like a petrol-fueled machine at only a small fraction of the running cost. The bike can travel 100 kilometres after just 2 hours of charging. British racing legend Sterling Moss was there to promote the new machine. The Vectrix Super Scooter produces no hot polluting exhaust, it uses no oil or water, and an average year's riding of about 8,000 kilometres will cost about £35. To recharge, it plugs into any standard mains outlet. Developed by former members of the Lockheed Martin Aerospace Division, it delivers a top speed of more than 100 kilometers per hour. By the end of this year, there should be 300 power points on London's streets, offering unlimited opportunity for electric riders to recharge. This year marks the anniversary of a very special vehicle. The Fiat 500 was an automotive icon of post-war Europe. Launched 50 years ago in 1957, the tiny car followed the small rear-engine template laid down by the Volkswagen Beetle. During its 18-year production run, the Cinquecento, that's Italian for 500, was made in 6 variants. Though it was very small, the Fiat 500 was both practical and extremely popular. The first model, the Nuova, had a 479cc 2-cylinder air-cooled engine, which was both reliable and economical. It was astounding how much and how many could fit into the micro car. In 1960, the D, which looked very similar to the Nuova, had a slightly larger 499cc engine that developed close to 13 kilowatts. All models had a 4-speed manual gearbox. The Fiat 500 gave new meaning to the term small car. It was just under 3 meters long and was originally intended to alleviate the growing traffic densities in Italian cities. The baby Fiat was both cheeky and cheap, and is credited with putting millions of Italians on the road. Around 3.7 million cars were sold, and because the model is still so recognizable, Fiat has decided to bring it back. The new version will be bigger, more powerful, and with an engine in the front. The 21st century reinterpretation of the popular city car is due to make its debut at the Frankfurt Motor Show. For nearly 60 years, the California Zephyr has carried passengers through the Rocky Mountains. This is the best way to see some of America's most stunning country. The scenery hasn't changed, but the food has. Gourmet dining on long train journeys used to be very popular, but options such as fresh fish are no longer on the menu. Instead, it's microwaved beef and hamburgers. Plastic plates have replaced the china, and the tablecloths are made of paper.
Mac and cheese, microwave.
It's all because Amtrak, the company which runs the US's rail network, is trying to save a few dollars. The US Congress threatened to stop providing $100 million in subsidies unless labor and food costs on the trains were reduced. But there is one train that still lives in the past. The Empire Builder is the train that travels through Montana's Glacier National Park. It continues to serve up high-quality meals on real china. All of this costs about 10% more than Amtrak's other 15 overnight trains, but passengers don't seem to mind. In fact, the Empire Builder is the most popular of all Amtrak trains. More service reductions are on the way, but at least passengers can still enjoy the incredible views. Europe's second largest bell, hanging in Vienna's St. Stephen's Cathedral, is undergoing special checks. The tests are part of the ProBell project, aimed at determining the lifespan of Europe's important bells. Professor Andreas Rapp from the Kempten Polytechnic carefully wraps sensor strips for an electrocardiogram around the cathedral's 21-ton bell, nicknamed the Pomeran. They will measure the strain the bell is under while it rings and assess how much deformation the material suffers under blows from the clapper. Deformation of the bell can lead to the formation of cracks. Hamburg's Millennium Bell has already undergone a scientific examination, and bells in London's St. Paul's Cathedral and Paris's Notre Dame Cathedral will be tested next. The bells are under greater stress now due to the new mechanical bell ringing techniques. And some bell experts think that many bells have suffered damage during the past 100 years because new steel clappers have been introduced. Data recorded can reveal what the risk is of future cracking. In 1952, the current bell was cast from the remainders of an old one destroyed during World War II. Dubai is one of the world's fastest growing cities. Buildings are sprouting not only up from the ground, but also out from the sea. The emirate is developing rapidly thanks to its vast oil reserves and an ambitious development philosophy that attracts new workers and a growing number of European holiday makers. Last year, the city expanded by almost 25%, putting strain on an already overstretched infrastructure, especially its road system. The city's biggest problem is its volume of traffic. The constant congestion is chronic, but thanks to a new project, this may not be the case for much longer. Dubai is soon to be home to the world's longest driverless railway system. 52 kilometres of track linking 29 stations is being built above and below the city, and it is being constructed in record time. Thousands of labourers are working around the clock, building station concourses, train lines and platforms that run alongside Dubai's main highway. Once complete, the metro will be the longest unmanned rail system on the planet. The design and build contract was awarded to a consortium of companies from Japan and Turkey. Along with the French-based engineers, all have been working flat out to reach the target completion date and accommodate the estimated 1.2 million passengers that are expected to use the metro each day. The 5-carriage trains will be driven automatically from a centrally located control room. The trains will use a composite third rail, so no overhead contact line will be needed. The city of Dubai is centred on the creek, a saltwater inlet that opens onto the Persian Gulf. But boat traffic cannot penetrate the growing urban sprawl, and road traffic is now so slow that the new metro cannot come soon enough. The metro will run above and below ground, including a section travelling 35 metres beneath the city's busy streets. Technological features on the trains will include wireless internet, cameras and video screens. Planners are hoping the train will entice the city's estimated 1.4 million residents away from their cars. The endless traffic jams, especially in the summer heat, leave many people frustrated. The transport system is due for completion in 2009. In Britain, safety campaigners are delighted by the announcement of stricter laws banning use of mobile phones whilst driving. If UK drivers are caught using their mobile phones while driving, they will have to pay a £60 fine and receive 3 penalty points on their licence. Police forces can now check phone records to see if the driver was talking on the phone, and they can use the records as evidence in a court of law. Police advise all drivers to switch off their phones, but a driver may call crisis numbers in response to a real emergency. Kenya's leading mobile communication provider, Safaricom, has launched a low-cost money transfer service called M-Pesa, which enables users to send and receive money through their mobile phones via text messages. M-Pesa is a fast and affordable way to transfer money within Kenya. The service is aimed at mobile phone customers who do not have a bank account, typically because they do not have access to a bank or because they do not have sufficient funds to justify a bank account. M-Pesa was developed by Vodafone with joint funding from the United Kingdom Department for International Development. Mobile phones have become the key tool for businesses and informal traders across Kenya. Many Kenyans move away from their village to cities in search of employment. Mobile phones offer a way for families spread across the country to keep in touch. The new service is the fastest and easiest method for average people to send money home. M-Pesa says that more than 20,000 people are already regularly using the service. To access the service, all the customer needs to do is register at an authorised M-Pesa agent by providing their mobile phone number and their identification card. Once registered, M-Pesa users are able to withdraw cash after receiving an SMS informing them of the transaction. M-Pesa is also developing services that will enable people to make different types of transaction via their mobile phones. For example, paying for school fees, house rent and insurance. In parts of India, an informal mobile phone transaction system has been operating, but the M-Pesa service is the first of its type. Minibuses or intercity coach services are sometimes used for sending cash, but they are not always quick and can be expensive. Tea plantations in the Kenyan highlands attract workers from across the country. Here in the tea-growing region of Limuru, the M-Pesa service is catching on rapidly because people are realising it is convenient and faster than minibus transfers. People say the instantaneous nature of the transaction is important because families depending on funds from an absent family member are often in financially tight circumstances. Mobile phones are spreading rapidly in developing countries because the infrastructure is comparatively cheap to roll out and the technology and service costs are within reach of those on even modest incomes. Les Bales, Financial Director of Safaricom, has played an integral role in the development and implementation of M-Pesa. He says that soon Kenyans living abroad in cities like London will be able to use the money-sending system, which he predicts will be faster and cheaper than other methods. In 2006, the World Bank estimated that migrant workers sent $200 billion US home to developing countries. Making innovative use of wireless technology will benefit millions.